Welcome, friends, to the Someone Gets Me podcast. I am your host, Dianne A, and I am so delighted that you're here. This podcast was created because I believe there is a visionary leader inside each one of us who is waiting to be seen. In each episode of Someone Gets Me, you will hear useful tips from successful visionaries who will share their stories about how being seen has allowed them to take their vision out into the world with action. Hopelessly Neurodivergent. Friends, it's Dianne at Someone Gets Me. Today we're talking about being neurodivergent, having ADHD, being gifted, twice exceptional. We're talking about it's just hopelessly this way in all of the right ways. So many times people want to know what the disability is or what the diagnosis is, or they use words that the Western society uses to denote a problem. Now, yes, it is quite difficult to manage in this world with neurodiversity. There's nothing easy about it. Being gifted is harder than not being gifted. Having ADHD can be extremely difficult. I remember when I was younger thinking that maybe there was something seriously wrong with me. Maybe I had a mental illness nobody was telling me about. Had all of those questions. But the truth is that being gifted and having a neurodivergence is something that can be turned around to be something beautiful and an asset, because I believe that we're all made perfect, whole, and complete, and that within us is everything we need to bring forward into the world what we're here and we're meant to do. I don't think any of us here are here by accident, and I don't think any of our gifts or talents or ideas are unnecessary or unwanted. I think they're all valuable. And that's my own personal opinion. And so I was laughing today earlier to myself, I guess with my dog, I guess we could say, as I was walking her, and I'm like, I'm like hopelessly neurodivergent. It is just the way it is. I have to open mail later on today. I don't like opening mail. It stacks up really fast. There are all kinds of useless things, and I have to sift through to find the things that even matter. And it's exhausting for my brain. Either I have to have somebody come and body double with me to help give me the energy to do it, or I have to give myself a time frame or a structure to help me get it done. It's mail. And other people like open their mail like no big deal, and then go get it out of their box and they do everything. And I look at them and I think, how do you do that? Even my organizer says, well, you bring it in every day and you put it here and you go through it and then your day is done. And I'm thinking, well, that sounds reasonable. In real life, it's one of the most challenging things for me to do. And I laugh about it, but it's true. It's very true. People who are hopelessly neurodivergent tend to have difficulty, unusual difficulty, doing things that they don't enjoy or they don't see as being profitable or productive. So if it's something that is boring or it doesn't have an immediate function, then it's a little tricky, like doing laundry, doing dishes, opening the mail is my big one. And all of these things happen. They're real. And so when sometimes I'll say, hey, will you come over and hang out with me so I can get my work done? And people look at me like, what? Isn't that a distraction? I make, no, it's not a distraction, because having that other person around, it's called body doubling in that part of the world, but it helps my regulation of my brain and my function to be able to get something done that may or may not feel like I want to get it done, but I need to get it done, like opening mail. Because even fun things can feel exhausting sometimes when you are hopelessly neurodivergent. Like there are times where by 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like, wow, I'm whipped. I am so tired. Now, on one level, I'm not really, like mentally, but my physical body has put out so much effort and energy during the course of the day that there are times when I want to take a little quick nap in the middle of the day, and I often do, to kind of recharge up my batteries for the rest of the day. Because even having fun sometimes can feel exhausting and tiring when you're neurodivergent. And so we all need to pay attention to where we actually put our vital resources, our vital energy, because it's not a constant flow because we're not machines. Another thing, let me see. Another thing that makes us hopelessly neurodivergent is that our brains can sometimes feel foggy or slow when we're used to them being sharp and on point all the time. Like I'm used to all the time being able to know exactly what I'm thinking and do it and deliver and all of that. And then there's times, especially if I'm tired or the project is not thrilling and exciting or novel to me, where my brain will get a little foggy or it'll slow down. Like around 2:33 in the afternoon, goes a lot slower than it does early in the morning. And then if I stay up late enough, like after my bedtime, there's a whole second wave of energy. Yeah. So for all of us, it's a little bit different because we have different operating systems. But when you're hopelessly neurodivergent, you know that that's the case. So there's kind of like a sine wave. It's up and down often, which also means that you also may have sleep that is not necessarily the same as everybody else's. I don't know that I've ever slept regularly 7 or 8 hours a night, like go to bed at one time, get up at the next time. I do know that when we wake up in the morning is the most important, and to get up at a consistent time every day to keep our biorhythms in order. So I do that. But when I go to sleep at night, sometimes varies. I try to keep it within a range. And also sometimes I sleep really, really well. And sometimes I don't sleep well at all because I wake up with ideas or I have dreams or things are happening. And so we learn how to not get all upset if our sleep is different than everyone else's, and to pay attention to what our own personal rhythm is. So if your sleep or your appetite or any of those things get off from your unique rhythm, that's when you pay attention to what's going on. I know that I'll go on a certain rhythm for about 90 to 100 days, and then it'll change. And then that'll be different for 90 to 100 days. And typically it goes back to the first one. So it alternates. But sometimes it's a third one. But I also know that when it starts to shift, that that's just what the season is going to look like. I know I resonate with more daylight. So in the summer, I am up much more and I'm much more productive. I have friends of mine that the summer heat shuts them down and they're less productive. They're more productive in the winter when it's colder. All of us have it differently. I have a client of mine who does everything exactly the opposite. Like I'm all excited because of the warmth of summer. And he's going, oh no, I don't know what I'm going to do with all this heat. And he produced all kinds of cool things all winter. And because that's his time. And I was like, well, okay, let me just get through the winter, right? So we all do it a little differently. So we want to make sure that our own way works for us. And it may not be the way of anybody else you know. Maybe similar, maybe not. So make sure that you're paying attention to your own rhythms. One of the things you might want to do is keep a journal about some of these things. Like I have a journal that I just keep track of things. I have a big calendar actually in my bedroom where I can mark down things that are important so I can make sure that my system is operating in the optimal way for me to bring my gift to the world. I have to be present and alert and attentive for all of the clients that I work with and for my work in general. I write my books and I'm doing this podcast, and there's these things that are important to me because I keep getting feedback from people that they're really grateful. And so it matters to me to be my best in these times where I'm offering what I have for others in a humble way, hoping and knowing on some level that whatever it is that I bring, however it is I excite the inner fire in another person, that person then can take that fire and do something magical and amazing with it, and then thereby touching other people and doing good things that way. So when your inner critic gets loud, you hopelessly neurodivergent person, when that inner critic starts to get loud, you know what I do? I say, liar, liar, pants on fire. Remember that from when you were a little kid? Or I also will just go la, 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 so that it will shut up. Because what I know is that we all wake up doing the very best we can. And some days we do great and some days we don't. But we don't have to sit there and let the inner critic beat us up anymore. Once we wake up to that, we don't have to listen to it. We don't have to let it have a voice. Some people who are gifted want to understand and figure it out and dissect what the inner critic says. Yes, it's useful in some areas of therapy to say, okay, what's that inner voice saying? Largely, it's lying anyway. So why would we want to listen to the lies? I used to listen to them, Oh, my inner critic says all kinds of stuff that, I'm too short, my head's too big. I could go on and on and on. But the truth of the matter is that I showed up in this world with everything I need to bring my gift to the world. And all that judgment and that critic voice, it's not important. It's just not. So when we take away its story and realize that we're just hopelessly neurodivergent, we then are free to be who we're meant to be in a way that's authentic and real and sovereign. Now, there's a couple things that hopelessly neurodivergent people do that you may be able to relate to. And one is that sometimes we can get really overwhelmed by small decisions. Small decisions meaning, like making the easy decisions, like what's for dinner, or what am I going to wear to work tomorrow, or, things like that. Which gas station am I going to stop and get gas for my car? Sometimes the little decisions seem really big and overwhelming. And we watch other people go through it fast. Like I was talking earlier about the mail, and I'm like, I don't like opening tons of mail. And I don't like it when I open my mailbox and there's all this mail in there, and half the time it's not for me, or it doesn't matter, or it's junk. No, I don't want another credit card. No, I don't really care about all the things that all these people are mailing to me. I don't care. And so, but I have to go through it. And sometimes it feels overwhelming to make the small decision to just do the mail. I would much rather go do something important or intriguing or creative. Another thing that hopelessly neurodivergent people do is they tend to isolate sometimes. Yeah, we tend to do that. Now, I don't know if you've ever done this, but I know I've done this where I've said, yeah, I'm going to go to this party or go to that event or go do this. And then it comes time to do it. And my hyper oversensitive, intensely sensitive self goes, I don't know if I can be around those people. I don't know. I don't know if I can do it. And so sometimes that part of me wants to isolate, whether it's good for me or not. Sometimes it wants to. And that's where it takes discernment and learning your own pattern to say, well, no, this is an important thing and you're going anyway. And then you realize once you get there, you're having fun. But it also might mean that you've overextended yourself, and that quiet time is not really isolation as much as it is recovery time and rest. So you want to pay attention to yourself, your own rhythms. That's why journaling is important. That's why keeping track is important. Because see, your brain's going to say, oh, I'll remember that I had this event or this thing happen. You will remember it. But the problem with our brain is it's a deletion brain, and it collapses time. So you might think it was last week or last year, and you could be really wrong in the linear time. And so what you think you remember and the orientation and what it really was, if you were documenting it as you go, are often quite different because of the way our brains operate. Our brains delete what it doesn't think it needs, and it focuses on the things it thinks it needs. And it collapses things into categories and things because all the synapses have to put the stories together. So there's a lot of times that we think something was 3 weeks ago, and it might have been a year ago or a month ago, or it could have been yesterday, because we're time optimists as neurodivergent people. And often that relation to what the linear time looks like is different than our experience. So by keeping track and journaling some of the important things, you can then remind yourself and make sure that the decisions you're making are for your best interest. Because when we isolate and it creates depression or separation or loneliness, that doesn't serve us. But when we isolate or come apart for a while to serve ourselves, that's a whole nother conversation. So we want to pay attention to the fact that when we're hopelessly neurodivergent, that this is just how we are. You don't need to change who you are. You don't need to be somebody different or try to be somebody different. Masking doesn't work. Pretending to be something else is exhausting and it doesn't work. It eventually all gets all muddled. So I walk around sometimes these days, having worked through a lot of it myself and helping my clients all the time with this, of standing in my own sovereignty and realizing that I am here on purpose with a mighty purpose, and that I have what I need within me to bring out that thing, whatever that gift is, and that I'm perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with us because we have a different operating system or because we do things differently. There's nothing wrong with you because opening the mail is exhausting, or doing some of the mundane things that we have to do in life is really hard. There's nothing wrong with you because you sometimes avoid things that are boring. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you if you come up with ideas that are ahead of your time and it takes a year or 2 or 3 for the rest of the world to catch up with you. And there is nothing wrong with you if you're intuitive and empathic and sensitive and you feel your emotions deeply. There's nothing wrong with you. Your emotions are the energy that tells you you're alive. Your emotions and that sensitivity is what gives you the edge of the beauty that you are. It's not something to hide or run from. Yeah. So when you're hopelessly neurodivergent, you can smile a little bit more and know that your quirky, cool self is meant to be here as your quirky, cool self. Imagine if everybody was the same. That would be so boring. And we're not going to do that anyway, right? So I hope that this episode has inspired you to be you. Do what you do best. Allow the universe to work in your favor and allow people who understand you to support you. As always, you can schedule a get to know you call with me if you'd like to. I love doing those calls, and I also love being here for you. So if you have any topic suggestions or questions or anything, please let me know, either by putting a comment on this show or sending me an email. There's all kinds of ways to contact me through my website. All that information is in the show notes. So whatever you do, don't walk around with questions that could be answered. So if you need or want something, please reach out. In the meantime, keep your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you, because you're a rock star. You're here on purpose with a mighty purpose. So go out there and let your light shine. Light that fire and bring something amazing to the world. And until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, this is Dianne saying, be well. Thank you for listening. I trust you gained some valuable inspiration and information. Please join me and other visionaries in the Someone Gets Me Facebook group. Or for more information on my services and additional episodes, visit someonegetsme.com. Again, thanks for listening.